It's always inflammation. Do you want to know if you've got a big picture doctor that's going to help you? If they don't ask the question, well, where's all this inflammation coming from? They're doing what I call shotgun medicine. Well, let's try this drug, or well, let's try this nutrition. Well, let's try this diet. They're really worth considering to help you feel better right now, but they have to be including where's all this coming from?
Welcome to the Myers Detox Podcast. I'm Dr. Wendy Myers, and on this podcast, we talk about everything related to heavy metal and chemical toxicity, and we talk about more advanced topics in health and other podcasts because I get bored talking about the basics. So I'm doing this show for me. But we talk about bioenergetics, we'll talk about emotional trauma, biohacking, just all kinds of really interesting topics. And today we're going to be talking to my friend, Dr. Tom O'Brien, about inflammation. He recently filmed a documentary called The Inflammation Equation, talking to 60, 70 doctors all over the world. He met in person to film them, and he found out some really interesting things about inflammation, how they're the main drivers of the top 15 diseases that kill people. We're going to be talking about the underlying root causes of inflammation, one of those being heavy metals and chemicals, that they stimulate your immune system. And inflammation is essentially an overreactive immune system. It's reacting where it should sometimes, as for wounds, for example, to heal them, but other times it's an overreaction where we see in autoimmune disease, we see in food sensitivity reactions, we see in MCAS, or mast cell activation syndrome, that produces really miserable symptoms in the sufferers of that. So we're going to be talking about all of the underlying root causes of inflammation, including gluten and glyphosate. That's an herbicide found in gluten, and all about autoimmunity. Just a really, really good show, and what you can do to reduce your inflammation. Our guest today is Dr. Tom O'Brien, and he's an internationally recognized expert on gluten sensitivity, autoimmune disease, and the environmental triggers that drive chronic illness. For more than 4 decades, Dr. O'Brien has been at the forefront of identifying hidden immune triggers, particularly non-celiac gluten sensitivity, and their connection to autoimmune disease and systemic inflammation. He's a clinician, researcher, educator, and paradigm shifter who challenges conventional thinking and empowers people to think differently about chronic disease, environmental toxins, and immune activation. He continues to lead conversations about the root causes of illness and how simple, consistent shifts, even just 1 hour a week, can dramatically change the direction of our health. You can learn more about Dr. O'Brien's work at thedoctor.com. He's got the best URL of any health website. It's thedr.com. Dr. Tom, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the health field?
Good. That would be 46 years ago. I was an intern, and my ex and I could not get pregnant. I called the 7 most famous holistic doctors I'd ever heard of because I'd started reading about holistic healthcare during my education. And they would say, well, do you know what a category 1 is? No. Learn. Okay, category 1. And I put a program together, and we were pregnant in 6 weeks. And we were living in married housing, and our neighbors had gone through artificial insemination at the time, and nothing had worked, and they'd asked if I'd work with them, and they were pregnant in 3 months. So now we're 4 months pregnant, hot to trot, just telling all of our friends, and our friend would say, my sister, she's had 3 miscarriages. She's in Milwaukee. Can she drive down to Chicago and talk to you, please, please? So I started seeing patients out of my dorm room. We lived on campus, right? And you're not supposed to do that, but I did. And we opened our practice with a much bigger picture of healthcare and addressing the underlying triggers, which is just such common language that people use today. And usually, you can really tell as a patient or a client, if your practitioner, your health coach, your medical doctor, your chiropractor, your nutritionist, if they're really looking at underlying triggers, or do they have a new technique or a new laser therapy or something else that's got great results, and they're trying to put that one on you. And the way that you can tell is if they say to you, well, the first thing we have to do for your symptoms is identify why are you inflamed? Because CDC tells us that 14 of the 15 top causes of death are chronic inflammatory diseases. It's always inflammation, unless it's a acute trauma, like an accident or something. It's always, and it doesn't matter if it's Alzheimer's or diabetes, uh, reproductive disorders or migraine. It doesn't matter. They're all inflammation. So when you get back to, if you're dealing with someone who's including looking at what's the trigger for all of this. If they're thinking that way, if they're talking to you that way, then you're in the hands with someone who's thinking the big picture.
Okay, yeah, and tell us what is inflammation exactly? Because I think people hear that
Really good
a
question.
lot, it's thrown around a lot, but
You
what is it
bet.
exactly?
Really good question. Mrs. Patient, your immune system is the armed forces in your body. It's there to protect you. There's an Army, a Navy, an Air Force, a Marines, a Coast Guard. We call them IgG, IgA, IgE, IgM, cytokines. They're all different branches of the armed forces, and their sole job is to protect you. And if you don't need protection at the moment, your immune system's very quiet. It's in the background, it's kind of dormant, like the soldiers at Buckingham Palace with those big hats. They're just standing there. They're not doing anything. They're dormant. But when your immune system gets activated, it gets activated to protect you. So the $1 million question is, what is it trying to protect you from? And when you identify, is it heavy metals? Is it mold? Is it toxic accumulation of pesticides or organo? Here's an example. At a French fertility clinic, they published this paper about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. When they do blood tests on the men of the couples that are coming in, if they have measurable levels of glyphosate, it's a chemical that's used on most of our produce now, our fruits and vegetables. If the men have measurable levels of glyphosate in their blood, those men, the glyphosate level is 4-fold higher in their semen because glyphosate accumulates in the testicles, in testosterone-loving tissue. If glyphosate is accumulating in the testicles, it damages the sperm. The immune system gets activated to fight this toxic chemical that's not supposed to be there. And the inflammation that results from the activated immune system damages the sperm. It's called fragmented sperm. What's fragmented sperm? DNA, uh, uh, babies get their genes, one from the mother, one from the father. So do you have blue eyes or brown eyes? Are you going to be tall or short? Every cell of your body, the development of our bodies is controlled by the DNA. DNA is nothing but a blueprint. But when you have fragmented sperm, your blueprint is damaged. You've lost a few pages of the blueprint. So the cell reproduces, but it reproduces as a damaged cell, an incomplete cell. And in that paper that I was just quoting, if men had measurable levels of glyphosate in the sperm, they had a 146%. If they were successful, if that sperm was successful to impregnate the egg, and they did in vitro fertilization, if it was successful, there was a 146% increased risk of miscarriages if dad had fragmented sperm, if dad had glyphosate levels in their testicles. 146%, not 10%, not 20%, 146% increased miscarriages. And the fertility clinics say, well, we'll have to try again. And that's more stress for the couple, another $10,000, $20,000, because insurance doesn't pay for this. and it's really the accumulated amount of toxic chemicals in dad's body that contributed to the problem that developed. So, and that all stems back to your immune system trying to protect you from this foreign invader, glyphosate, creating the inflammation that defragments the sperm. It's always inflammation, but nobody thinks this way, So, do you want to know if you've got a big picture doctor or health coach or nutritionist that's going to help you? If they don't ask the question in some form or another, well, where's all this inflammation coming from? If they're not thinking, if they're not including that in their thinking, they're doing what I call shotgun medicine. Well, let's try this drug, or, well, let's try this nutrition. Well, let's try this diet. Well, let's try this laser therapy for your thyroid problem. And all of those protocols are so helpful. They're really worth considering to help you feel better right now, but they have to be including where's all this coming from? So I think I went off tangent on how did I get into this field.
Yeah, that was perfect. Perfect, introduction to inflammation. And now a word from one of our sponsors. So for women in their 40s and their 50s, protein isn't just a fitness thing. It's one of the most practical tools you have for supporting your lean muscle, your strength, and steady energy as your body changes. And it can also make it much easier to hit your daily protein needs when you're not busy, not that hungry at breakfast, or simply not getting enough from food alone. But I'll be honest, I don't take chances with protein powder. There's a lot of contaminants and heavy metals in most protein powders. And if it's something I'm going to use daily and suggest to clients, I want it to be clean, tested, and from a company that's willing to prove what's in it and what's not in it. And so that's why I use and recommend the P1 Puree grass-fed whey protein powder. This is so delicious. It's Madagascar vanilla. Ingredients in this protein powder are such high quality. And Puree is the only brand that has earned the Clean Label Project's transparency certificate because they third-party test every single batch against more than 200 contaminants and make it all the results available on the QR code on the label. So all you have to do is scan this QR code and you can see the testing for your batch of protein powder. And if you want to get a 32% off, just use coupon code Wendy20, and that's going to give you 32% off your first order of Puree protein powder. And you also get a free shaker worth $25 when you start a subscription at puree.com/Wendy20. Puree P1 grass-fed whey protein is third-party tested for 200 plus contaminants and heavy metals, guaranteed free from hormones, pesticide, and GMOs, and it's Clean Label Project certified. And every single serving has 21 grams of high-quality grass-fed whey protein powder sourced from pasture-raised cows. And it's got 12 grams of essential amino acids, 6 grams are BCAAs or branched chain amino acids, and 3 grams of leucine per serving, key for supporting muscle protein synthesis as you get older. And protein, it also supports healthy detox because your body uses amino acids to help bind and eliminate toxins. And yes, it tastes amazing. My daughter loves the taste as well. And this is my go-to protein powder. It's made with real bourbon vanilla from Madagascar, which is the best vanilla in the world. And I have at least one serving daily, and I actually look forward to it because it tastes really good. It's super high quality. It meets my standards for taste and quality. So try today and save 32% off your first order and get a free shaker bottle worth $25 when you start a protein subscription with my personal code Wendy20. So go to puree.com/Wendy20. That's PUORI.com/Wendy20. So what are some of the other triggers? So you mentioned toxins are triggers, or no, like food sensitivities are a big one. Like, so can you go into some of the other triggers of inflammation?
Sure, of course. Well, in the food category, the most common food is wheat, and that's with or without celiac disease. There are 62 different components of the proteins of wheat that can activate an immune response, not just gluten. Gluten's important to test for to see if your immune system's fighting, of course, but there are many, many more. So if your doctor is just testing for gluten sensitivity, uh, and that's important to test for, but it often comes back with a false negative saying there's no problem because the person is actually, the immune system is being activated by the wheat amylase trypsin inhibitors or by the wheat gluteomorphins or the prodynorphins. I don't want to geek out here, but the point is there are many different
Oh, we're here to
components.
geek out, Tom.
The point is there are many different components of wheat that may be activating your immune system. 50% of celiacs, card-carrying celiacs, don't have a measurable sensitivity to gluten. But wait, they're celiacs. That's the only autoimmune disease everybody is certain is from wheat, but the test for gluten's negative. Well, why is that? Because it's not gluten for that person. It's the gluteomorphins or the amylase trypsin inhibitors or some other components. So you need to do a test that's more comprehensive. And that test is called the wheat zoomer because you zoom in on the problem. It looks at 26 different, and that's anywhere in the world. Now, I've not been to the Far East, but I teach in Rome and London and Spain and Hungary. I'm going to Hungary in a couple of weeks. Uh, all the laboratories I've seen in the Western world, there's no test that comes anywhere near the wheat zoomer. And it's just a finger prick. And it's so very, very accurate, 97 to 100% accurate. So it could be wheat. That's the most common food. It could be dairy. It could be lectins. There is the Plant Paradox was a very famous book a couple of years ago, and he brought out a lot of good science about the category of foods called lectins and how they may be a problem for people. My problem with the book and the author of the book is that he says nobody should eat lectins. And that's nonsense. It's a food that's on the planet, that's here for us. But no one should eat lectins if your immune system is fighting lectins.
Yeah, it's like half, like maybe 50% of people roughly are sensitive.
Right, that's right. So it's valid. It's really important to check for, and that's called the lectin zoomer. And there's the dairy zoomer, and they're very comprehensive tests. But, the rule of thumb is in God we trust. All others require data. If if you don't have the data, you're guessing. And then you're in the category of what I refer to as shotgun medicine. You throw something up on the wall and hope it sticks. Well, let's try this and see how you do. But so in the category of foods, wheat is most common, lectins, dairy, soy, they're all fairly common that you might have a problem with. Environmental triggers includes mold so commonly. The test that we do called the total tox burden looks at 18 heavy metals and 28, they're called the exhaust of mold, mycotoxins. They're so small, they're 1,000th the width of a human hair. They're just so tiny and they get through, you breathe them in, they go right up through into your brain. They accumulate in the brain. They're just so anyway, 28 mycotoxins from mold, that's very, very common to see, and 34 or 36, I don't remember, chemicals, organophosphates, the pesticides, insecticides, rodenticides, fungicides that we're exposed to every day, which is so very important to see. Is your body accumulating these over the years? Has your body been accumulating because you're exposed to a little too much? So with that simple urine test that also is extremely accurate, this person has inflammation going on that's fighting the lead that's accumulated in their body, or the glyphosate, or the organophosphates, or the mold. But if you don't know, if you don't check, there's no way that you'll ever make the effort to reduce your exposure to whatever it is and to get the stuff out of your body that's not supposed to be there. So in the there's food categories, there's environment that we're exposed to. There's very, very common and close to the top of the list is too many bad guys, not enough good guys in the gut. That's called dysbiosis, meaning your gut's out of balance. Well, why would that be so important? Well, but here's an example. It was Michael Gershon, I think he was at Princeton in 1997. He published the book, The Second Brain. And in The Second Brain, he told us for every one message from the brain going down telling the gut what to do, there are 9 messages from the gut going up telling the brain what to do. The ratio is 9-1. And what kind of messages? How many hormones your brain is making? They're not exactly hormones, but for our understanding, we can refer to them that way. They're called neurotransmitters. But how much serotonin, how much melatonin, how much dopamine, how much of all of the hormones, the volume of production is regulated, or the medical word is modulated. And all that means is has its hands on the steering wheel of where the car's going, of how many hormones your brain makes. You don't make enough of certain hormones, you get depression. You can't show me a diagnosed depression patient that doesn't have an imbalance in hormones, because every single one of them does. Well, let's give you some drug to help with that, the serotonin uptake inhibitors for antidepressant. But why don't they have enough serotonin? And when you learn that 90% of the serotonin that controls our brain function, our happiness quotient, if I can use that term, is produced in the gut and stored in the gut. Well, really? But if you don't have enough of the good guys in your gut, you don't make enough serotonin. And if you don't make enough serotonin, then your brain goes out of balance, your steering wheel gets turned 5 degrees, and you're off the road. You got depression, or you've got schizophrenia. See, I make it sound so simple, right? And it's so complicated to understand all this. But from the patient's point of view, it's really simple. My goal, you'll appreciate this, Wendy. I brought a consultant in a number of years ago, and my practice was virtual by then. So I brought everybody to Southern California when I lived in San Diego. And we had a day at my house with this guy, and he charged $10,000. It was like, holy cow, but came really well recommended. And out of the whole day, what really focused us and got me just laser focused for many years afterwards was we came up with the moniker for my website, which is thedr.com, thedoctor.com. And what's the moniker?
Best health website name out there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. What's the moniker? Thedoctor.com, making it easy to do the right thing.
Now a word from one of our sponsors. So I'm a huge fan of True Energy skincare. So this is a bioenergetic skincare line that I've been using for almost 2 years now. And it's what I use exclusively. It's so good. And so they have a new product out called the bioadaptive hydration oil. So this is really, really key for protecting your skin from dry winter weather. Because when you have cold weather plus wind plus indoor heating, that's going to equal dry, irritated skin. So hydration is really, really key to protect your skin barrier and, preserve your skin. And so why does this matter? It's because dehydrated skin can look dull, tight, and more fine lines and wrinkles. So supporting your skin during winter helps it stay resilient and healthy. So like I mentioned, I love True Energy skincare, and they have this bioadaptive formulation designed to boost hydration and nourish the skin. So it's a bioactive, nourishing skin oil. And so it's infused with frequencies. And so there are dozens and dozens of frequencies imprinted on their energy optimized blue bead. That's in all of their products. And it's imprinted, actually, not with hundreds, with thousands of frequencies to support cellular repair improve collagen production, increase regeneration of your skin. And this is what I'm using at 53 to get the best skin that I can possibly get. This is one of my secret weapons that I personally use. And so this bioadaptive hydration oil uses nutrient-rich, skin-supportive, and clean ingredients as well. So all you do is add 1 to 2 drops to any of your face cream or True Energy products like their serums or their lotion, and it just increases that hydration. I also use it because I do face yoga every night. So I use the hydration oil. I put it all over my skin, and I'll do a massage, and I'll do gua sha, and just do other things as part of my nightly routine. So there's a lot of different uses for it, including increasing the hydration and the effectiveness of the products you already have. Try it for yourself. Go to trytrueenergy.com/Wendy5. So it's TRYTRU energy.com/Wendy5.
It's really easy for a patient or a client to do the right thing when you know what the questions are. Now, the answers may be difficult to implement, and very sophisticated, but it's easy. You just need to ask the question, where is my inflammation coming from? First, do I have excessive inflammation? Well, if you've got recurring migraines or joint pain or psoriasis or Hashimoto's, yeah, you've got long, chronic, low-grade inflammation. Absolutely. So the question is, where is it coming from? That's the easy part. You hold that boundary, and then you start looking to see, how do I find out where my inflammation's coming from? And that takes time. That's not easy to do. You've written some books that have been very helpful in that arena. Uh, uh, but it's easy to do the right thing. You just stay on track to get the answers to that question. Well, what's triggering this migraine? Well, the root cause is a methylation problem. No, it's not. No, it's not. That's a mechanism. But what's triggering the methylation problem? Where is it coming from? It's always inflammation. You'll always find it's inflammation. So, we talked about diet. We talked about environmental triggers, the microbiome of the gut, emotional stress, emotional trauma, the hormones that are produced with emotional stress and hormone imbalances that occur is a huge component for many people, especially for people who say, I've tried everything and nothing works. Those people, there's often some emotional trauma from very earlier in life, not in the last week or two or last month or two, but earlier in life. And we all learn to survive as children, to do the best we can. And how we react to particular stress that comes into us as children is how we usually respond to similar types of stress as adults. We have that same line of thinking or that same response mechanism or withdrawal mechanism, whatever it is. But there's a history of where it came from. And my ex was a Jungian analyst, or Carl Jung. And so there was Freud and Jung. They're the two of the big guys. And so I learned a lot about how that can contribute to your physical pain, your inflammation levels, is the amount of stress you're carrying. Sleep is a critical component. If you don't get enough sleep, and I get enough sleep, I'm fine in my sleep. Yeah, but how much you get? Fine, I get 5 hours a night. No, it's not enough. And it's really easy to tell. It's easy to do the right thing when you know, okay, this is how I explore if sleep is causing inflammation or not. How do you do it? You wear a Aura ring or a ring that measures. There you go.
Love mine.
Yeah, because it'll tell you, and you can't argue with it. In God we trust. All others require data. The Aura ring gives you information of the quality of your sleep. And so you can't argue with it. Well, I get 5, 6 hours a night. Is it refreshing? Yeah, I'm okay. No, you don't want to be okay. You want to be great. You need to wake up feeling great. My wife has finally agreed to get room darkening shades. That she never grew up with those and she didn't want them. There was always a little night light on in the bedroom.
It makes
And
such a huge difference. It's shocking.
that's right. That's right. And it's shocking. It's been a couple of weeks now, and she's already like, wow, I didn't know that I wasn't refreshed in my sleep, right? And so,
And I can
uh,
imagine high blood sugar, which afflicts so many people, is a massive driver of inflammation.
yes, exactly. Exactly. That's next on the checklist. And that's easy to identify. That's really so easy now. How do you do it? You get a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor. It's like a nicotine patch. You put it on your arm, it lasts for 2 weeks, and then you download the app on your phone and you take the phone, you say, what's my blood sugar right now? Oh, okay. Then you go eat whatever you eat, and then you check it again, and you check it an hour later. Wow, look at that. What really? If I eat rice, my blood sugar jumps sky high and then it crashes? Really? Well, that can't be right. I'll try that again in a couple of days. And you do it again, it's wow, I'm not going to eat so much rice anymore. You learn. I mean, it's easy to learn how to stabilize blood sugar if you have the feedback mechanisms that are guiding you. So it's not just a good idea, because rice is supposed to be, brown rice is healthier for you. It's supposed to be a good idea, but for some people, it just skyrockets their blood sugar and then they crash.
Let me ask you something a little bit personal. So, how do you get yourself out of a bad mood? So, it can be hard, really, really hard. And it only gets harder the longer that you're in that space. So, that's why I'm a big fan of today's podcast sponsor, Organifi. They made an amazing product called Happy Drops, and they're little gummies that are super tasty. And they can help make your bad moods better and your good moods great. And so I'm sure I'm not telling you anything new when I say the world is really stressed out right now. You can see it everywhere. In stress and mood related visits to the doctor's office are skyrocketing along with various prescriptions to match. And so if you're anything like me, you're looking for a safe, natural approach to rebalancing your happiness and your stress chemicals without worrying about the side effects. Well, Organifi has given us exactly that, and they're called Happy Drops, and they're my favorite new supplement. These yummy little lemon gummies are made with ginger, with gotu kola, and passion flower, all of which are shown to have positive effects on mood and emotional well-being. Plus, they have a real powerhouse ingredient, which is saffron. So why is that so cool? The compounds in saffron are shown to help your brain modulate its levels of serotonin. And serotonin is one of your happy chemicals, and saffron helps your brain enjoy it longer. Saffron also relaxes you. There's many cultures around the world that drink saffron tea before they go to bed because it helps relax them and helps them go to sleep. So saffron also contains antioxidant properties, which can help you protect your brain from oxidative stress. So that's great for detox. So best of all, there aren't any nasty side effects. There aren't any like bad ingredients, and it's safe to use every single day. So saffron's traditionally very challenging to find in the supplement world. It's difficult to plant and to farm. It's even harder to harvest, and that's why it's one of the most expensive ingredients on the planet. But now, thanks to the superfood geniuses at Organifi, we can all enjoy a real dose of real mood-lifting organic saffron for less than $1 a day. So I'm excited for you to try them. I think that everyone should. I love their happy drops. So just go to Organifi.com/Myers Detox. That's Organifi.com/MYERS and get your happy drops today. And when you use my discount code Myers Detox at checkout, you're going to save an extra 20% off. So again, that's Organifi.com/Myers Detox. I want you to go out and try Happy Drops today. Like I said, I love them. I've been taking them on a regular basis to help me to go to sleep at night, to help me kind of relax and get in the mood. You've got nothing to lose but your frown. Yeah, it drives me nuts when people say, "Oh, I had my blood sugar checked, I had my fasting glucose checked, and it was normal." Like that's one point for over
That's
a
right.
year. It's just that gives you zero information. You have to do the continuous blood sugar monitoring to see how you react. after you eat? Do you have continuous blood sugar spikes throughout the night? If
Right.
it affects your sleep, if you have a high carb meal in the evening, there's so many components to it that you need to look at.
And we're all different. We all respond differently because we've all had different histories. I grew up and when my mother went shopping, I'd help her carry the bags back into the house because I'd always look for the uh, cream cheese cake from Sara Lee. You know, it was always in the bag, and I'd grab it and I'd eat half of it before I got in the house. I mean, so, we all have different histories, which set us up, completely set us up. I mean, the window of childhood is so important to allow these children's bodies to develop um, to their potential, whatever their potential is. I want to give you a some shocking numbers now. We heard late last year that the CDC gave us more accurate numbers on the frequency of autism. And we now know that it's one child in 34 in the US is on the autism spectrum. When I came into practice, it was 1 in 10,000 that most doctors never saw an autistic patient in their entire career. Now they see them every week. Well, it's not because of better testing. There's not. There's no test that confirms autism by itself. It's really that there are more children whose brains are not functioning properly. And that 1 in 34 number is done by every state collects the data in the state and they send it to the government, national, the federal government, who puts it together 1 in 34. Okay. But in California, it's one boy in 12 is on the autism spectrum by the age of 4. So the pregnancy went good. The delivery went good. The baby looked healthy. Parents, great, healthy baby. Baby does fine. But by the age of 3 to 4, it's like, what's wrong with this child? My son's different than the others. Why isn't he? And then you see your child's on the autism spectrum as if it just happened. Now you go back and you read the science that when mom has dysbiosis, too many bad guys, not enough good guys in the gut, during the pregnancy, the myelin, which is the insulation around nerves, never develops to the potential of what it's supposed to. And the number of nerves, if your nerves are a network of wires all connected to each other, there's less wires. When mom has dysbiosis, baby's brain does not develop to its genetic potential. We now have the science on this, and you see the pictures of the myelin. You go, wow, wow, right? And so baby never had a chance because baby's brain did not develop in utero to its genetic potential. Maybe because dad had glyphosate in his testicles and had fragmented sperm, or mom had dysbiosis in her gut, too many bad guys, not enough good guys, causing inflammation, and mom had too much accumulated chemicals, and she had what's called endometritis, inflammation on the inside lining of her uterus. 24% of women of childbearing age, when checked, have endometritis, whether they have symptoms or not. That means there's too many chemicals or too much inflammation on the inside lining where the fertilized egg is supposed to implant, but it's inflamed there. So there's more miscarriage. That's what we're up against. And now I'm going to put one more study into the equation. There's a doctor. She's at the University of Montana. She's from Mexico originally. And she has been focusing on air pollution in Mexico City for the last 25, 30 years. And she did all the footwork and got the government to do this, where they have monitoring stations in different neighborhoods all around Mexico City. And they've been following children in Mexico City and their brain function. And what they found a number of years ago, the most polluted neighborhoods, because maybe too many freeways or a factory close by, those polluted neighborhoods had dramatically higher percentages of children that had brain function problems. And she started showing that, gosh, it was 15 years ago, she showed that every dog in Mexico City, didn't matter the neighborhood, every dog had evidence of Alzheimer's, plaque in the brain, every dog. That was 15 or more years ago. Last year, she published, unfortunately, if these children who had died of some reason, whatever it should be, 203 children, average age was 14, from different neighborhoods in Mexico City, 202 out of 203 had evidence of Alzheimer's. The average age is 14. It's the air pollution. So you make it easy to do the right thing. It's very difficult to identify all of these different triggers. You either need to have a healthcare practitioner like you, Wendy, or me, someone who has spent years and hours and hours and hours studying all this, being blown away by it all, but keeping the big picture so that you can investigate, where is my inflammation coming from? And it's not going to be just gluten. If you are fighting gluten, if your body is fighting wheat, and you go completely gluten-free, there's no such thing as cheat days. There is absolutely no such thing. If you go gluten-free, you feel better, great. But you're not going to feel 100% because there's also going to be some mold, or there's going to be some bacteria in the gut, the dysbiosis in the gut, heavy metals. Our world is so toxic today that it's almost impossible where it comes back when you do the right test that there's only one thing. There's a number of things that have to be addressed.
Hmm. Yeah, let's talk about MCAS. So mast cell activation syndrome. This is something that it's increasingly affecting so many people. It's a very, very severe like immune system reaction. Can you explain what that is exactly?
Well, the question is, why is your body getting activated with excess mast cells? Where is this histamine coming from? Where? And there's no one answer. It's going to be the same investigative approach is, what are the toxins you're exposed to? What's accumulated in your body? My experience has been with MCAS, it's never a nutrient deficiency, meaning that's all you have to do is give them the nutrient, then they're fine. It's certainly that they can be helped by it. They're helped by a number of different protocols, but you've got to identify, why is the immune system being activated? And unfortunately, in our world today, we didn't hear this 10 years ago. Now you're seeing more and more studies that are referring to this. Baby's immune system did not develop comprehensively in utero. So they're much higher on a sensitivity index. They have a much lower threshold of tolerance for anything they're exposed to, because mom was so inflamed when baby was in utero developing. And so we've known that for a long time with asthma. If mom had asthma and was taking inhalers, baby's lungs don't develop properly. Or if baby, as an infant or as a child, a toddler, or as a child, is taking steroid inhalers, baby's lungs don't develop properly. There's an inhibition in development, and for the rest of their lives, they're compromised to one degree or another. So we have generation now that is coming onto the planet not with a full deck, if I could say it that way, right? And it's because moms of childbearing age now, women in their 20s to 40s, mid 40s, they came from mothers who were the first generation of large percentages of toxic women in having pregnancies, and that baby's not developing to its potential. And at the same time, the amount of toxins in the environment keeps going up and up and up and up. And our threshold keeps going down and down and down and down. So now we have one boy in 12 in California is on the autism spectrum. That's what we're up against. I mean, it's a huge, huge problem. Boys today have what I think the latest study, is 22%. I think that was right, 22 or 24% of the sperm count their grandfathers had at the same age. 22, 24%. So it's this inflammatory cascade. Mast cell activation syndrome is just it's another example of a highly activated immune system. So the question is, why is it so activated? Is it that it didn't develop to its full potential and threshold is much lower? So they're being exposed to a little bit of gluten or a little bit of air pollution and their immune system can't handle it. And so they're getting a much higher response. You have to investigate that to see where's it coming from.
So I want to take a minute to talk about the health benefits of olive oil and thank one of our sponsors of the Myers Detox podcast called Fresh Pressed Olive Oils. Like many of you, I'm always trying to eat healthier, and that's why I love really good olive oil. I eat olive oil every single day for its many antioxidants and longevity benefits. Olive oil is the cornerstone of the Mediterranean diet, proven to be among the healthiest in the world. And Sicilians from Italy and some islands in Greece have some of the longest lived people in the world because they're eating olive oil every single day. So check out this article from Life Extension magazine. Olive oil markedly extends human lifespan. In a long-term clinical study, those who ingested the most olive oil-derived polyphenols live 9.5 years longer if they're over the age of 65. And the Harvard School of Public Health has announced the results of a 28-year study showing that just over a half a teaspoon of olive oil per day is associated with a lower risk of dying from cardiovascular disease, cancer, neurodegenerative disease like Alzheimer's, respiratory disease, and it's been shown to, in the research, to reduce high LDL cholesterol. It helps prevent type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, and obesity. And it may also help to prevent arthritis and osteoporosis. There's so many health benefits. So whenever you buy olive oil, the four most important words to remember are the fresher, the better. So olive oil packs the most flavor and the most nutrients when it's fresh from the farm. And that's the problem with supermarket olive oils. They're not fresh. They can be sitting on the shelf for months, transported overseas on ships, losing the polyphenols and antioxidants, with the healthy fats even going rancid the longer they sit in the bottle. And that defeats the whole purpose. Not only that, but most olive oils sold in the US are not actually olive oil. They're mixed with canola and other unhealthy industrial GMO seed oils that you're trying to avoid by choosing olive oil in the first place. So it's really shocking that this has been allowed to happen, but there just isn't much oversight in the industry. And that's why I stopped buying olive oil from the grocery store years ago, because you just have no idea what you're getting. And so that's why I love getting my olive oil direct from someone that I trust, from TJ Robinson, who's known as the olive oil hunter. He has found all these artisanal small farms producing olive oil like they've done for thousands of years. And I so look forward to my quarterly shipment of olive oil from Spain, Italy, Australia, and other countries. This one is from Portugal. And depending on the country, and the olive oils are ripe and in season, they press the olive oil and they bottle it and they send it to you right away. So it's the freshest that you can get. And so when I tasted TJ's Farm Fresh oils, I fell in love with them. They're so fresh. They're so pungent. This is how olive oil is supposed to taste. And they're incredibly delicious on salad, veggies, pasta, meat, fish, you name it. Olive oil also has 0 carbs, so it's ideal for low carb, ketogenic, and paleo lifestyles. And as an introduction to his Fresh Pressed Olive Oil Club, TJ is willing to send you a full-size $39 bottle of one of the world's finest artisanal olive oils, fresh from the new harvest, for just $1 to help them cover shipping. So you can go take advantage of that at getfreshwendy.com. So you get a $39 bottle for only $1 at getfreshwendy.com. Again, that's getfreshwendy.com. And what can people do? So so many people are dealing with inflammation. They have pain as a result of that, and food sensitivity reactions and MCAS, which is a more severe inflammatory response. What can people do? Like, what is your approach to help people, calm down the inflammation in their body?
That's why last year I went to 7 countries and interviewed 64, I think it was, experts, world experts. I didn't do a Zoom interview, and to put when I'm talking to a scientist. I brought in film crews, right, and went full force, and we'd sit there, and I knew the questions to ask because I read their studies, and I say, Professor Schoenfeld, Yehuda Schoenfeld, Tel Aviv, Israel, is the godfather of predictive autoimmunity. To give you, I mean, he's got so many accolades. This one puts it in perspective. 26 at the last count that I had, 26 of the medical doctors who went back and got their PhD in immunology from his medical school immunology department, 26 chair departments of immunology in medical schools and hospitals around the world. They're his students. This is the godfather, right? And so we were on stage together in Rome, and then I organized to interview him afterwards. And so, Professor Schoenfeld, how are you? He looked at me, and he's a very serious guy. Actually, his alarm went off on his phone during our interview, and he looked really worried, and he said, "Someone is bombing my neighborhood right now in Tel Aviv." No, he said, "They're bombing our neighborhood right now." That's what he was living with. But then we got back to, he excused himself, made a call, made sure everything was okay. And I said, "How are you?" He looked at me and said, "Tom, we are born 99% human." And that's true. A newborn baby has a little bit of bacteria in their gut, a microbiome from mom, but not that much. We are born 99% human, and we die 90% microbial. And then he just stared at me. And I looked at him for a moment. So he was testing to see, how am I going to react to this, right? And I looked at him and I said, "So, Professor, does that mean that the true dance of life is the microbiome?" And he said, "Precisely." So that kind of thinking, that if there's only one thing you're going to do, only one thing,
Eat your
it's gonna-
sauerkraut.
eat your sauerkraut, or alternate sauerkraut, kimchi, miso. You alternate your fermented vegetables so that you're not just focusing on one family, right? Right? But yeah, the fermented vegetable every day. I mean, how often do you see obese South Koreans?
Never. I didn't see
Yeah,
any. I was there. Very few.
yeah. Very few, very few. Why? Because they eat kimchi every day of their life. They're eating fermented vegetables, and they change out the flavors and all of that. Our dear friend Suzanne Benson wrote the book The Kimchi Diet, and she shows you, because she comes from 7 generations of South Korean healers and doctors, and she shows you how easy it is to make kimchi and to make it a flavor that your family will like. So if there's one thing you're going to do, that's it. It's going to be to work on your microbiome. That's where you start. But anyway, I interviewed Schoenfeld. I interviewed world experts like that, and we put it together in the docuseries called The Inflammation Equation. And it's free for everybody. It's about 45 minutes a day for 9 days, and it's all free. And you listen to these experts, and then you say, wow, That just makes sense. Okay, and then you talk to your family about it. You say, "Hey, can we like start exploring what types of kimchi we might like? You don't have to like everything, but let's just try it. Let's see. Let's see what sauerkraut tastes like. See if I can find one for you guys that you like, right?" And you just start exploring because, I mean, you don't act like a 5-year-old. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah, you just have to eat it. Suck it up.
Yeah,
Be an
yeah.
adult. Eat it.
Uh, in our house with our 5-year-old, we have a 5-year-old. The rule is you have to take one bite, even a teeny tiny bite. If you don't like it, you don't have to eat it. But don't say to me you don't like it if you've never tried it, right? So you just take and so what he does is he'll go, I don't like it. Okay, fine. Thank you for trying it. Really, that's the extent of it. And sometimes we find things that he likes. Most of the time we don't, but sometimes we do. But that's what it takes. It takes that kind of focused attention to develop the lifestyle that supports your health and vitality. And most people won't do it. They won't do it until they're sick enough that they've got to do something. All right, I'll give it a try. Right? Then they get into it and hopefully they do it full force and they notice they feel better. Wow. And then they go back and screw up and they feel terrible. They say, I'm done with that. That's the goal. That's my goal for people is that they feel so good in a short period of time. And then when they, I thought it's only a little piece of birthday cake. It's my daughter's best friend's birthday, and her mom is my best friend, and I'm over there helping at the birthday party. So I took a couple of bites, and then the next day, boom, you're hit. And when I talk to them, they tell me, I say, "Oh, that's great, congratulations!" And they look at me. I say, "Now you know. Now you know. You cleaned up your act, and then you threw something in there that you shouldn't have, and your body is revolting." Well, how come I didn't feel that way before? Because you were so toxic before, your immune system was so inflamed, protecting you, it dulled the response until it couldn't dull it anymore. And then here come your symptoms. So when people start understanding that it's your immune system that really is your best friend, and it's non-negotiable. It's not going to say, well, that's not good for him, but I'm a little tired today. I'm not going to deal with that. It's always going to try and protect you to save your life because we inherited the immune system from our ancestors. Before agriculture, they were nomads. They followed the herds, looking for food. And those that survived developed those that had the genes that allowed survival, those are the ones that reproduced, and they pass all that on to us. And so those that didn't have good immune function, they died. Their progeny's gone. They didn't reproduce. So we are the progeny of those really strong immune systems that successfully kept our ancestors alive. And people don't think this way. And so the inflammation equation gives you just a little bit every day, a little bit. Say, wow, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. That's really cool. And then you'll decide what you want to work with and what you don't. Things like the Aura Ring, like you've got on now, are so important. And we talk about those kind of things. I talk about clean your shower heads. You have to clean your shower heads because bacteria accumulates in the shower head. There's bad bacteria in the water. The chlorine and what cities do to clean the water helps, but it can't get rid of it all. So you turn the shower off, and then the water's up at the top of the pipe right in the shower head, and it's going to be a day or a lot of time where that water's just sitting there. And the bacteria in that water starts producing kind of this film. It's like a polymer or a plastic to protect itself. It's called biofilms. And you form this biofilm of the bad bacteria, and then the chlorine can't get at it anymore. This is where antibiotic resistant bacteria come from, because the antibiotics can't get at the bacteria in your body because it's got a polymer over it called a biofilm. And then you get in the shower and you turn it on and you get blasted with millions, literally millions of bacteria of Klebsiella or Pseudomonas. And then you wonder why you get recurrent sinus infections or why you got pink eye or why your daughter keeps getting sore throats. You have to clean your shower heads. If you live in tropical climates, it's every 3 months. They checked Hawaii and Colorado. And in Colorado, after 8 months, there was no new bacteria if you cleaned it properly. But in Hawaii, after 3 months, it was loaded again. So the warmer climates, you have to clean your shower heads about every 3 months or less, right? So you just learn all these little things. In the inflammation equation, we give you, I think it's 36 to-dos after you've listened to the world experts talking about biofilms or whatever the topic was.
So for anyone listening that really wants to detox their body, go to heavymetalsquiz.com. I created a quiz for you. It only takes a couple of seconds. Based on some lifestyle questions, you can get your toxicity score and get a free video series that answers all of your frequently asked questions about how to detox your body. Check it out, heavymetalsquiz.com.
Yeah, and what website do people go to watch the
Theinflammationequation.com.
Okay, so theinflammationequation.com.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
perfect. And any other tips? You mentioned, heavy metals and chemicals cause inflammation. So detox, definitely super important. I imagine infrared saunas are a big part of that.
Yes, they are. And infrared saunas now have come down in pricing. They've got these little systems that fold up like a notepad. They fold up pretty small. And then you get just a plastic chair and you unfold the notepad and you and then zip it up, and your hands can come out in a sleeve and you're working while you're sitting in this infrared sauna. And you don't have to spend $5,000 anymore for an infrared sauna. And they work. They'll help. All of us have to learn how to detox and detox well. So it used to be, when I came into practice, we called it spring cleaning, right? So every spring cleaning, you do a fast in the spring or you do a detox program every spring to keep your body clean. The world's so toxic now, it has to be a part of everyday life. Not that you're doing saunas every day, but you're doing something. You're eating the fruits and vegetables that help to detox. You're taking some supplements to help depending on where you live and what your body has accumulated. It just depends, on where you are. But it's a concept that is a daily focus, not an annual event. Detox.
Yes, I agree. Dr. Tom. Absolutely. Well, Dr. Tom, thanks so much for coming on the show. That was really, really good. I always love interviewing you. I can just sit back and relax and just, give us all the interesting facts that you have in your head. So thanks so much for coming on the Myers Detox podcast.
Thank you, Wendy. Pleasure to be with you.
Yes. And everyone, thanks so much for tuning in to the Myers Detox podcast. I'm Dr. Wendy Myers, and I love doing this show every week, bringing you experts from around the world to help you upgrade your life and giving you those pieces of the puzzle to help make those distinctions that you need, because I want you to feel good. So thanks for tuning in.
The Myers Detox podcast is created and hosted by Wendy Myers. This podcast is for information purposes only. Statements and views expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Wendy Myers and the producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. Individuals on this podcast may have direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.